everyone, my name is Karen, this is my channel RatherBeReading, and today I'm bringing to you my August marked as to read video. In case you're new, my marked as to read videos is a series of videos that I do each month where I talk about all of the books that I was inspired to click that want to read button on Goodreads. I talk about what the books are, where I heard about them, what they're about, and like why I'm excited about them. So let's jump straight in. I marked a total of 10 books as to read in August. So the first book that I heard about in more of an unconventional manner. It was just one of those random articles that like come up on Facebook. And I can't even remember what the headline of it was, but whatever it was intriguing and I clicked on it. And it was an article about a book which I had never heard anyone talk about. And then of course, since I read that article, I've since heard I think 2 different people on BookTube talk about it because that's just the way those things go. So the book is Mary B, An Untold Story of Pride and Prejudice by Catherine J. Chen. So this is a Pride and Prejudice retelling from the perspective of Mary Bennet, who is very much kind of the Bennet sister who you don't really know that much about. She's the quiet sister. And so this is a retelling from her perspective. I think you get kind of before, during, and after the events of like the Pride and Prejudice novel. So I'm really excited to read that because it just sounds like a good time. The next book that I marked as to read is one that I heard Simon from over at Savage Reads talk about, which is A Spell of Winter by Helen Dunmore. So he was talking about this because this is the first ever winner of the Women's Prize. And he is on a project at the moment to read all of the Women's Prize winners that he hasn't previously read. And so he read this and it just sounded very intriguing and like up my alley because this is a historical fiction, but it's very gothic. And it deals with, I think, some quite dark themes, I think, as well, like some weird like incest stuff in there, I think. But it just sounded very intriguing. The next book that I marked as to read, I actually came across the trailer for a movie on Facebook, and it was like based on a novel, and the trailer was going on, and I was like, what book is this? I've never heard of this. So I looked up the book, and it's a book I've literally never heard of, but it's called Strange But True by John Searles. And the plot is so intriguing to me, and yet I've never heard anyone talk about it. It's a YA mystery, and it's about a boy who, like a teenage boy, I think he might even be like in his early 20s at this point, or like very late teens, like 19 or something, I'm not sure, whose brother was killed in an accident. And it's been 5 years, and his brother's girlfriend turns up and she's 9 months pregnant, and she's claiming that the baby is his dead brother's, but his brother's been dead for 5 years. What? I'm so intrigued by that plot. The next book is one that I've heard Krista from over at Books and Jams talking about a lot on her channel, and that is Hum If You Don't Know the Words by Bianca Marais. This is a historical fiction. It's set in South Africa around the time of apartheid. I can't remember the exact plot, but Krista's just had really, really great things to say about this, and she did a video where she like went to an event with Bianca Marais, and she like had some clips in there of Bianca Marais talking, and I was just really intrigued by her, and so I wanted to check out this book that Krista recommends so highly. The next book that I marked as to read is actually one that was recommended to me on last month's marked as to read video by Alison Rose. Thank you, Alison, because this book sounds right up my alley. The book is called The Deathless Girls by Kieran Millwood Hargrave. And the reason Alison recommended it to me was because of the opening line like of the synopsis, because she thought it was great, and I think it's great, and so I'm going to read it to you. So the opening line is, gothic, intoxicating, feminist, darkly provocative, and deeply romantic. This is the breathtakingly imagined untold story of the brides of Dracula. I'm sorry, what? That sounds amazing. Like, I'm so excited about that book. That just sounds so good. The next book that I marked as to read is another recommendation that I received on my channel. This one was from one of my viewers, The Story Keeper, who comments a lot on my videos. Thank you so much if you're watching. And he recommended this book to me on my Hidden Gems book recommendations. And he recommended this book as one of his hidden gems, which is a book with, I think, 30 ratings on Goodreads, so very much a hidden gem. And it's called Maladapted by L.A. Fields. It's a YA LGBT novel about a boy who gets, I think after he comes out, his parents send him away to this like program for maladapted youth. It's kind of all about that. It sounds fairly intriguing. And I think this was like his favorite of all the like hidden gems that he has read. So very much interested in that. The next book that I marked as to read was one that I've just heard quite a few people talking about on BookTube recently, and it just sounds so interesting. It's called The Five, The Untold Lives of the Women Killed by Jack the Ripper by Hallie Rubenhold. And it's just what it sounds. It's a non-fiction novel all about the 5 women that Jack the Ripper killed, which I didn't even know Jack the Ripper only killed 5 people. For some reason in my head, I considered him to be like this serial killer who killed way more people than that. But it's all about these women and how there's this kind of prejudice against these women where everyone, and I had thought this, that all of his victims were prostitutes and things like that. And that's not even the case. So I've just heard really amazing things about that book, and I definitely want to check it out. The next book that I marked as to read, I heard about on a Goodreads blog post that was for the most read books in August. So it was a blog post just all about the books like that were the most popular that month, that the most people were reading in August. And so I like had a quick skim through it, and there was one that I hadn't, like most of the books, as you can imagine, are books that you've heard of on BookTube at some point, but there was one on there that I didn't know anything about, and it was called What You Did by Claire McGowan, and it's a thriller. And it's about a woman whose I think they're at a party, and her best friend comes in, kind of seemingly has been in some kind of struggle, and tells her best friend that her husband, not the best friend's husband, like the main character's husband, tried to rape her best friend. And it's kind of all about that story. And it just sounds very intriguing. The next one is purely based on the author that I marked this one as to read. I'm sure a lot of people are talking about this book at the moment. It's Imaginary Friend by Stephen Chbosky. Stephen Chbosky is the author of The Perks of Being a Wallflower, which is a book that I have read and really, really loved. I also love the movie adaptation. It's one of the best book-to-movie adaptations, in my opinion. I really, really love that book. And that book was published like in the 90s, I think. And he hasn't published anything since. And that's a YA contemporary. So this is his like sophomore novel, like his follow-up novel. However, this is an adult horror. Like, what? Yes, please. And it's about, what did I write down? It's, I have in my head kind of what I think it was about. Then I'm like, I should check my notes just in case I'm wrong. But no, that's right. So it's about, I think, a woman and her son. I think it's like it's a single mom, like with her son, who are fleeing like an abusive home. And so they're in a like new town, trying to make a new start for themselves when the son goes missing. And I think he's missing for like a couple of days. And then he returns, and I think he's like on the edge of the wood. But all of a sudden when he returns and he's got this voice in his head, which I presume is like where this imaginary friend thing comes into it. It just sounds incredibly creepy, but right up my alley. And like I said, for Stephen Chbosky, I'm so intrigued by this just purely based on the fact that, oh, I just kicked the camera. I'm sorry, that this is so different from the previous book that he published. So there's that. And then the final book that I marked as to read this month is one that I heard Missy from over at Binge Reader talking about. And this one's called, excuse me, The Changeling by William Ritter. This is a middle grade novel, I believe, and the plot's just really interesting. It deals with changelings, in case you couldn't tell by the title. And it's about like is it a goblin? Some kind of creature, goblin type creature, who is kind of that old like fairy tale around changelings where they change over a human baby for a changeling, and the goblin or whatever it is come into this woman's home and is about to swap over her baby for a changeling, and he's like, put the changeling in the cot, and then he's like distracted by something and turns away for a second, and when he turns back, the changeling has already like taken on the characteristics of the baby that it's supposed to be like mimicking, and he can't tell which is the changeling and which is the baby. So he ends up leaving the changeling there and leaving the baby. And so this woman comes to her crib like to get her baby and finds an exact like replica of her baby, and she ends up raising both of the kids. And then I think it follows them when they're like 12, and there's a lot of the story around that the reason for the changeling being there or whatever is all coming to pass, but it's like which one is the changeling and which one is the human, all of that. It just sounded like really fun, like adventurous, but like fun middle grade novel that I was just intrigued by, and so I marked that one as to read this month. So that's it. Those are all of the books that I marked as to read in August. I would love to chat with you guys in the comments down below if you've got any thoughts on any of these books, or if you've got any recommendations, because as you can tell from this video, I love a good recommendation because I love getting excited about books and I love marking them as to read. So please do recommend to me any books that you think I might like, not just on this video, but any video ever. I just love recommendations. Please like this video if you liked it. Please subscribe if you want to see more from my channel. That is all I have for this video today. Bye guys.